Welcome to the DNA Advantage podcast, where you can learn facts about your DNA that can help you live a healthier, longer life, doing all the activities you dream of doing. If you want to gain more control over your health and the factors that influence it, you're in the right place. Hi. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today, I wanted to run through a few things to help you get unstuck and recognize what might be holding you back from moving to the next level. Whether it's for health or for performance, when we have goals, a lot of times we can get stuck and plateau or get in a position where we feel resistance and we're not able to move as quickly or as efficiently as we would like. There are a few strategies that can help us get unstuck and get moving in the right direction and feel so much more power in our position currently and in our momentum. So today, that's what we'll be talking about. The first is something that can really influence us without knowing, and that's mindset. I think when we hear mindset, it sounds a little soft. It sounds like it's not something that we can do a whole lot about. But when we recognize that it's beliefs, and those beliefs are based on what we've been told, what has been modeled for us, and what we tell ourselves. It's really important to recognize those factors that either contribute to a positive mindset or a negative mindset. Having been told that things are a certain way, or that we have certain capabilities or limitations, and we have a certain vantage point from our peers, from our parents and other relatives. And it's important to recognize it's not that we're challenging or questioning the people who brought us up. It's not that we're looking at them as a negative influence, but we do have to consider that times have changed and our surroundings have changed. It's important to recognize that what we've been told is not necessarily what is true today. And what has been modeled for us is not necessarily the way we want to be. That is something that can become all too clear as we grow up and as we realize really what we want to be as individuals, what we want to stand for. And then, of course, what we tell ourselves can really contribute to our mindset and our beliefs of what we're capable of doing. And that can either limit us or it can really propel us forward. It takes a lot of effort to alter the mindset and improve things, but it's interesting because it can be the smallest of things that we've heard or believed in our lives. And when we start to reflect on that and really dive in deeper to appreciate the origin of the story or what we've been telling ourselves over and over again, it's very valuable and it can shift things remarkably fast. One of the stories I like to tell about this is when I was young, if I would eat an apple or a peach or a pear, I always wanted to keep the seeds and plant them. And someone, I think it was another child, but I'm not sure, told me that seeds don't grow unless they're special seeds. It may have been an adult because they didn't want me to save the seeds, but it was interesting because my sense of hope and joy in the idea of planting those seeds was taken away temporarily because I had such hope that I could plant seeds and get another apple or another pear. And when I was told that those seeds were worthless, essentially, and I couldn't get anything to grow from them, it became a belief for me. Even into my teens, I questioned whether the seeds from something I was eating could actually grow a plant. I knew that wasn't true, but it's funny how that story stuck with me from childhood. Imagine how our lives would be affected if that were true. If we believed that something like a seed from an apple could not grow apples unless it was a special seed, unless it was deemed by one grower in the United States to grow. That is so frightening. And yet we allow for these beliefs in ourselves and in our lives and in all that we do to limit our thinking in that same way. It's funny how quickly we can take on those beliefs. And as a child, certainly, we're more likely to take on those beliefs. But think about some of the beliefs that you have, or some of the mindset limitations that you have that may come from childhood, or may even come from one interaction as an adult that shifted us into a more protective mode or a more limited thinking. And that is something we need to push back on and challenge, because when it comes to moving to the next level for our health, for our performance, if we have a belief that we don't wake up early, we're not morning people, and that's a belief that we have, that could limit us in our activity in the mornings. And we might find out that there's this huge opportunity to do something in the morning, but we're limiting ourselves because of that belief that we have that we can't function in the morning. It really is important to challenge and push back on what we've been told or what we've believed, what we've even taken on as our own belief. Another side of mindset is what we tell ourselves. I'm sure you've heard the saying that we have mostly negative beliefs, but I had to look it up, so I'm going to read this. Well, I'll paraphrase it, but the National Science Foundation is the organization that did the study about negative thoughts. I always wondered who did that study because it sounds very complex. They found that the average person has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. Not sure how they figured that out, but interesting. And of those, 80% are negative, and then 95% are repetitive. With 95% of those thoughts being repetitive, it can trap us in a cycle of negativity, especially if we aren't working on moving ourselves in a more positive direction and giving ourselves more constructive thought and more of a constructive feedback loop that is redirecting those negative thoughts. To me, it's daunting to think about thousands of thoughts that we're having and trying to wrangle all of those thoughts or redirect them. Rather than that, I really like a few constructive steps that we can take. And one is crowding out those negative thoughts, having very specific positive thoughts, whether it's through meditation in the mornings or gratitude that we can do at a certain time or certain times of the day, giving ourselves a positive stance and something to really focus on. If it's a nature walk and we feel that we gain a lot of positive energy through that, and we're able to really identify things in our environment that we're grateful for, and give ourselves an opportunity to be in that positive environment and that positive thought. It's a strategy that we can get intentional and have the flow of positivity rather than having that overwhelming negative thought process that just takes over. When we recognize the negative thoughts that we have and just stop and question what the origin of that thought is, question where that came from, if it came from someone else who told us, or if it's a repetitive thought that we have based on something that we've witnessed or experienced or observed. But all of these things are really valuable to own why we have these thoughts and how we can move in a more positive direction. And either write down or say out loud a more positive, redirected version of that thought so that we're giving it more credence and we're giving it a lot more attention in a positive light. And we're undermining the origin of it, and then we're reinforcing the positive of it. And sometimes if I have a really negative thought that's repetitive, I will question that origin. And if I see that it's rooted in something very long lasting or something that could be very influential in my life as a trigger for me, I will do the writing or the reciting of that positive version on a daily basis for a number of days to try to redirect it. If I've been having that thought for 20 years or longer, we need to do something constructive and positive that will reinforce the opposite of that, right? Or the more positive version of that. The other thing beyond mindset is knowledge. So, do we have the knowledge that is going to support us in moving to that next level? And it can be very complex. Sometimes we're aware that there's a topic that we don't have the foundational knowledge for, and other things we don't know what we don't know. And it can require some discovery and research to identify what it is that we can dive deeper into and understand more fully. If we feel like it can benefit us, there's an area of knowledge or a topic that we really want to dive into, giving ourselves the opportunity to do that and allotting some time to do that would be really valuable, because it's almost like a structured class time that we're giving ourselves in an area that we really value, because it's moving us toward up-leveling our health or our performance. It's not something we have to know overnight, but staying open to new knowledge is really important. Seeking deeper understanding and then questioning things. Getting to the root of where the knowledge came from, just like with mindset, when we understand that our knowledge may be at a certain point in a subject, and this is what we believe. And I'll use the example because, of course, with DNA, I would fall back on that. But when people believe that DNA will define our health outcomes, that is a belief that's very likely rooted in old science. So when we identify that and recognize that's a false sense of knowledge, that is not true, then we can research why our health is not rooted in genes alone. Then that's very empowering, especially if we've found that to be defeating and limiting and feeling like that's just going to be our outcome and we have no control over it. Questioning things that we think we know or that we used to know and now may have changed. It can be really powerful. When it comes to implementation as well, this can be a tough one for many of us because getting into action requires the mindset to be where we need it to be, and it requires our knowledge to be supportive of moving forward in the right direction in a constructive way. It's important to have done some work in mindset and knowledge, especially if we're looking at why are we procrastinating in this particular area, or why is this not moving forward? Why are we not able to up-level our health or performance in a very specific way? We need to look at what our mindset is around that, what our knowledge is around that, and then recognize how that links to our action or inaction in this case. And if we feel unprepared or unsure, that is a definite showstopper for most of us. Because if we don't feel like we have the knowledge or the capability of doing what we aspire to do, we don't want to fail. So we usually just freeze and don't do anything. And that's really something that can keep us from accomplishment. It can freeze us for years. So circle back to mindset and knowledge and appreciate what is the origin of the procrastination. It might just be it's something we don't want to do. And in that case, we have to really zoom in on why doing it is more important than the pain of doing it. We have to really look at what steps we need to take and what resources we need for the change and how can we move on. When we look at the why and the purpose of being healthy, and we really get into the reasons, it's so interesting because I don't know if you've ever heard of the 7 layers of why, but essentially you just ask yourself why every time. Why do I want to be healthy? You give a topical answer, right? I want to be healthy so I'm not sick. And then why do I not want to be sick? And then you get to that next layer. That might be because I don't want to be uncomfortable. Why don't you want to be uncomfortable? I know it sounds like it's very basic, but it really can bring you to an epiphany of why it's so important for you to take the necessary steps to get healthier and become in control of your health. Being able to get to that root why. They say don't stop asking why until it brings you to tears, because that is really what will motivate you to do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever goal we're talking about. Being able to put in the work, you're always going to be more motivated and willing to put in the effort when you know that essential why. A few other things that you can do to get yourself motivated and in action is to get support from someone who has either experienced and accomplished the goal that you're going for, or it could be someone who's working alongside you and they're also trying to achieve it in the same time frame. Or it can be someone who can relate to you and just can appreciate how important your why is and why you're trying to achieve it. Accountability is a big one, not only from an outside perspective, but also your own personal accountability. I find that being able to write down what I'm doing daily, weekly, and monthly to achieve the goal and holding myself accountable, taking notes, checking off the boxes, to know that there is that accountability. Sometimes it isn't someone else. Maybe it's something that you don't feel anyone else in your life can relate to because it's a value of yours, but not someone else's. That is completely understandable. And getting the accountability for yourself and having those points to reflect on, it can really move things for you. The most important thing, I'm going to recap really quickly here, is mindset, making sure that your beliefs are supporting you in what you're trying to achieve. Challenge some of the beliefs that you've had, asking yourself where they came from, the origin of those beliefs, and if it came from someone else, if it came from an experience, or if it's something that you're just telling yourself and you've told yourself for so long that that's just become a belief. But really being able to push back and go into a more positive mindset and a more positive thought process by reinforcing the positive thoughts and reframing the negative. Getting the knowledge and really being open to new knowledge, investigating new things, and really looking at what will support you in your process of achieving your goal and getting to that next level. And then the implementation and getting into action that we just talked about. So it's really important that we look at these things, because whether it's a health goal or some other goal, these are really valuable steps to take. And I hope that they can be helpful for you. If you have any questions or there are any showstoppers or any things that are preventing you from getting to the next level and you want to share, you can always share them below. And I hope this was useful to you. I look forward to talking to you next week. If you have any questions or would like to have any topics covered, just let me know. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining me to learn about DNA health. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you'd like to join my free community where we delve into more details about DNA, just click Community below.